One slip of a tire, and the depth below offers no way back. These roads and railways are built where the landscape seems to reject human presence, hanging over sheer cliffs, crossing eternal ice, and cutting through some of the harshest deserts on Earth. Every blind curve hides uncertainty, and every meter of track can be threatened by landslides, violent winds, or extreme weather. Trains climb steep gradients through narrow gorges, while fragile bridges tremble under storms, turning each journey into a real gamble. This is a journey across the world's most dangerous roads and railways, where the line between conquest and catastrophe can vanish in a single second. Yungas Road. Connecting icy peaks with the tropical rainforest, this road drops freely from an altitude of over 15,200 feet to 3,900 feet, creating terrible pressure strong enough to burst sealed plastic bottles. The surface is only about 10 feet wide, just fitting a truck without any shoulders or emergency lanes, where a mistake the size of a handspan means disaster. Danger doubles when waterfalls from the cliffs pour straight onto the road, creating blinding water curtains, obscuring the view, and waiting to push vehicles into the abyss. Death always lurks behind sharp, blind corners without mirrors, where you never know if a truck is rushing head-on until it is too late. Its majestic beauty is stained with tragedy, as it was created entirely by hand from the sweat and blood of thousands of prisoners of war in the 1930s. With a past of swallowing hundreds of lives every year, it has been officially named the world's most dangerous road, a title written in fear. Sani Pass, South Africa. Resembling a giant python slithering through the Dragon Mountains, this hellish road is the unique gateway connecting the ground with the kingdom in the sky. In the short final 6 miles, the altitude skyrockets insanely to 9,436 feet, challenging every law of physics. At the steepest points, the slope reaches a 1:3 ratio, forcing vehicles to strain themselves climbing vertically on loose and slippery gravel. The Z-shaped hairpin turns stacked densely on top of each other, creating a vertical maze with no escape for the faint-hearted. Fear overwhelms as the entire journey has absolutely no guardrails, where a small mistake will lead to a free fall into the abyss. The final destination is the continent's highest pub, where a beer will make you drunk twice as fast due to the breathtaking altitude. Fairy Meadows Road, where the line between life and the abyss is measured in inches. This road is not for the faint-hearted, but a living legend for the adventure community. Carved entirely by hand from the vertical cliff, the gravel surface is only about 10 feet wide, just fitting a standard vehicle with wheels rolling right on the edge without any guardrails. In a short journey of less than 9 miles, you are pushed from the stifling heat to an elevation of 10,800 feet, where the sudden pressure change makes engines roar and ears pop. The rocky cliffs block the view, creating a terrifying illusion, as if the path ahead is crashing straight into the mountain or falling freely into the deep canyon. Once the wheels start rolling, there is no turning back, because along this precarious journey, there is almost no space wide enough to turn the car around. The loose gravel texture, easily sliding before harsh nature, turns this place into a haunting symphony between majestic beauty and extreme fear. Skipper's Canyon Road. Like a jagged scar cutting across the steep mountainside, this historic road is a crazy proof of the gold rush in the late 19th century. For 7 long years, miners had to hang on ropes between jagged cliffs to drill holes and fill explosives to create the path. Made from schist rock that peels off easily, the surface never truly sleeps as it turns into blinding dust when dry and mushy mud when wet. Survival space is squeezed with a width ranging from only 8 to 10 feet, where an open car door can hit the cliff or hang over the abyss. The danger is so clear that 99% of rental car insurance contracts refuse to protect you the moment your wheels roll in here. In this completely isolated area, with no phone signal, a car breakdown means leaving your fate to the luck of rare passers-by. Passage du Gois, France. This is not merely a path, but an ocean magician when twice a day, this road silently sinks into the sea, severing all connections with the mainland. The real danger lies not in the depth, but in the violent cross currents, strong enough to sweep a 3,000-pound car freely out to open sea. Nature sets a harsh rule of survival, granting humans only a scant 3 hours when the tide recedes to cross, and anyone late must pay with their life. The glowing red electronic signs at the start do not carry normal traffic meanings, but a cold ultimatum. Turn back immediately or prepare to face death. The most surreal scene occurs when the water rises 13 feet, turning the asphalt into a seabed for ships to glide calmly right over where cars just rolled. The peak of drama is the annual foot race, where athletes must sprint against the tide, turning every step into a breathtaking chase with the rising water. Bernina Express, Switzerland. Few believe that this train can challenge gravity to climb to the top of the Alps using only wheel adhesion without any supporting cogwheel system. Thanks to the giant dome glass design extending from floor to ceiling, all visual barriers are removed, making tourists feel like they are floating amidst the majestic mountains. At the pass summit, nature treats the eyes with two lakes lying side by side, one milky white from melting ice, the other deep black from underground springs, creating a fascinating contrast. The journey is a time miracle, taking viewers from the region of eternal ice down to the warm Mediterranean climate in just 4 hours. The thrill comes from the horseshoe-shaped winding tracks, where the train curls up so that passengers in the first car can see the tail behind. This is one of the rare 3 railways in the world recognized by UNESCO as a heritage site, proving that humans can pass through nature without destroying it. Los Caracoles Pass. From the height of birds, this vital route cutting through the Andes looks like a giant snail curling tight around the wild mountainside. Famous for a series of sharp hairpin turns stacked on top of each other, this place looks like steep stairs challenging even the toughest drivers. Reaching an elevation of 10,500 feet, the oxygen level drops sharply, making engines roar with struggle and travelers feel dizzy and have headaches. In winter, nature turns this place into a white hell with snow walls up to 13 feet high, ready to swallow and bury any vehicle that gets stuck. Not only is there ice, but the road also sits right on the unstable ring of fire, where earth tremors and falling rocks are a daily threat. Amidst that extreme harshness, a 4-ton bronze statue of Christ has stood tall for over a century, like a guardian silently watching over the flow of people below. Kuandinsky Bridge. Originally a forgotten ruin of a legendary railway line, this bridge was never finished for cars, but remains a deadly challenge for the reckless. The surface is not paved, but is a jagged patch of thousands of rotting wooden railway sleepers, creating a rough surface like a giant spike bed testing the suspension. With no management, drivers are forced to carry their own wooden planks to manually patch up deadly holes that appear suddenly under the wheels. On this lonely journey, passengers must get out and walk as spotters, signaling every inch so the wheels do not slip off the blind edge. Even the most experienced drivers must always unlock and open the car door, ready to jump out to escape if the wind flips the car into the river. This is truly a dangerous gamble, where the line between life and death depends only on rotting wood and human survival reflexes. Lanying Cliff Road. Like a thin white scar slashing across the sky, this road clings to the vertical 90-degree limestone cliff. Without modern machinery, it was created from the blood and sweat of locals using hammers and crude explosives to gnaw at the rock for years. The special karst geology creates rock overhangs hanging right above the car roof, bringing a suffocating feeling as if the mountain is waiting to swallow the intruder. Survival space is extremely limited, with a road surface only about 10 feet wide, turning passing oncoming cars into a stressful geometry problem for every inch. Death always hides behind blind corners, winding along the mountainside, where vision is blocked and you only realize the oncoming car when the distance is less than 16 feet. Amidst that majestic and cruel nature, the road appears like a crazy masterpiece, where the line between life and the abyss is just an invisible boundary. Nanga Parbat Mountain. Known as the Killer Mountain, this is a lonely, icy fortress guarding the far west of the Himalayas, where death always lurks at an altitude of over 26,600 feet. Possessing the highest vertical cliff on the planet, the southern slope rises straight from the bottom to the top with a record difference of 15,100 feet, creating a giant wall challenging the sky. The landscape here paints the most violent contrast in the world, where right at the foot of the cold, deadly cliff are lush green grass and pine forests full of life. The terrain is so steep that climbers cannot find a flat surface to lie down, forced to sleep hanging over the abyss in tents hooked to the cliff. Having buried a whole expedition team of 16 people in a blizzard, it was called the Mountain of Destiny by the Germans, with a terrible death rate before 1953. In this dead zone, lacking oxygen, the line between reality and illusion blurs as many survivors recount that they always felt an invisible person silently walking beside them. Mount Hua. Known as the most dangerous mountain under heaven, this sacred place is not for the faint-hearted, as it is separated from the world by vertical cliffs. The fear lies not only in the height of over 7,067 feet, but in the powerful suction winds that can blow people away, combined with an abyss over 3,281 feet deep right below. The ultimate mental challenge lies on the rough wooden plank road, only 12 inches wide, loosely nailed to the cliff, where one slip means falling into nothingness. Looking from afar, the line of people inching along the narrow ridge looks like they are riding on the back of a giant stone dragon, flying in the blue sky. The journey of conquest also involves stairs carved straight into the rock with a nearly vertical angle, forcing climbers to use both hands and feet to hold on. Darkness covers this majestic beauty with a rumor of 100 lives swallowed every year, turning it into a magnet for those craving to conquer death. Stelvio Pass. Do not be deceived by the majesty, because at an altitude of 9,000 feet, the air is 27% thinner, making both human lungs and car engines scream for oxygen. The road lies next to eternal glaciers, where cold air blows down, creating a layer of condensed fog, turning the asphalt surface slippery like grease. The real nightmare lies in the hairpin turns so narrow that long cars are forced to reverse in the middle of the slope to steer through. Death does not only wait in the abyss, but also hides in the brake fade phenomenon, when brake fluid boils due to excessive heat friction during the descent. Few believe that this engineering masterpiece was built entirely by human strength with hammers and shovels in just 5 short years from the 19th century. Although humans continuously reinforce it with tons of concrete, the mountain always waits to swallow this road with terrifying, unannounced rock slides. Zoji La Pass. The name Zoji La is not for poetry, but a bloody warning about the pass of blizzards, the leading cause of death in this land. This sole lifeline is an extreme psychological challenge, as 90% of the road length has absolutely no protective guardrails. Separating life from the 3,300-foot abyss is just a jagged edge of earth, where trucks clinging to the cliff look as small as a colony of ants. In summer, melting ice waterfalls pour onto the road surface, turning the path into a rushing stream waiting to wash away the rocks beneath the wheels. The battle is not only outside. Sudden pressure changes cause drivers pain, nosebleeds, and vomiting right inside the cramped cabin. Most terrifying are the sharp turns, where the rear of the bus swings out into the air, hanging suspended over the mouth of the deep abyss, before gripping back onto the road. Guoliang Tunnel Road. Not carved by machinery, this route is a stone epic engraved from the blood, sweat, and iron will of 13 poor farmers. Suspended on a vertical red limestone cliff at an altitude of over 650 feet, the road looks like a magnificent crack piercing through the deep heart of the mountain. Inside the tunnel, the air is always damp and cold, with rough, uneven walls marked by every arduous manual chisel stroke over 5 long years. Death Railway. Behind the serenity of the winding river is a terrifying obsession with a railroad where every sleeper laid down was traded for a human life. Throughout 258 miles through the jungle, over 100,000 souls remained because of exhaustion, while carving sharp limestone cliffs with bare hands and primitive bamboo baskets. In the 90% humidity of the tropical forest, wounds from stone cuts easily became deadly ulcers that never had a chance to heal. The most breathless stretch of track sits precariously on a vertical cliff, where the old train trudges beside the abyss, looking straight down at the murky silt stream. The morning fog often covers the river surface as if wanting to hide the painful ruins remaining at the bottom of the water after the brutal war. When leaning out the window to take in the majestic landscape, tourists will be startled because the sharp rock face is only a few inches away from their skin. Baybert Off-Road, Turkey. Few suspect that this deadly road was carved into the rock cliff by the Russian army using only picks, shovels, and primitive explosives in 1916 to transport heavy artillery. Climbing straight to an altitude of over 6,600 feet. This is where thin air and fickle weather can cause fog strips to suddenly swallow all visibility in the void. From the top of 29 vertical hairpin turns, the path just traveled lies stacked right beneath the feet, like the edge of a skyscraper with no escape. The dirt road is so narrow that at sharp turns, drivers are forced to hold their breath and perform forward and reverse maneuvers right at the mouth of the bottomless abyss to squeeze through. On the edge of the unguarded road, floating clouds often obscure the ground, turning this journey into a life-and-death gamble with wild nature. Overcoming this road is not simply moving, but a certificate for the courage and superior skills of drivers who dare to look straight into the eyes of death. Taroko Gorge Road, Taiwan. Driving through this road is not a normal journey, but a bold intrusion into the heart of a massive marble block compressed for 4 million years. At the bottom of the abyss, the river rolls with a cloudy jade green color, not due to pollution, but because of tons of crushed stone powder and shale dissolving into the water. Right on the dark tunnel walls, car lights will sweep across the exquisite winding veins of natural stone, a luxury usually seen only in royal palaces. However, this magnificent beauty comes with lurking death, where walking tourists are required to wear construction helmets because falling rocks are a daily specialty. There are tunnel sections so narrow they fit just one bus body, forcing drivers to hold their breath and reverse hundreds of feet in the dark to yield to each other. Facing the suffocating dominance of nature, humans suddenly become as small as an ant crawling quietly in the crack of a giant rock. Train to the clouds, Argentina. This train is not just a means of transport, but a surreal journey taking humans off the ground to touch the deep blue sky of the universe. At a dizzying height of over 13,800 feet, the thin atmosphere turns the sky into a magical indigo, where white clouds gather right beneath the tourists' feet. This beauty comes with extreme harshness, where ultraviolet rays can burn skin in 15 minutes, and only moss species living up to 3,000 years can survive. The most spectacular highlight is the 1,600-ton steel bridge curved perfectly over the abyss with no guardrails, creating the feeling that the train is floating. To ensure life against altitude sickness, a team of doctors and oxygen tanks are always on duty on these trains, moving slowly at only 22 miles per hour. It took 27 long years to build this mineral transport road, but today it carries the dreams of humanity wanting to conquer the final frontier of nature. Iron ore train, Mauritania. Likened to a real-life version of the movie Mad Max, this train is a giant mechanical monster offering the harshest survival experience on the planet. With a total weight of up to 17,000 tons, it is as heavy as 3 moving Eiffel Towers and up to 2 miles long, making the ground shake violently whenever it passes. Passengers must accept sleeping on sharp iron ore blocks like a bed of nails, letting the violent shaking bruise their bodies throughout the long night. Not stopping there, the human body is tortured by insane temperature ranges. Baked at 122 degrees Fahrenheit during the day and frozen near 32 degrees Fahrenheit when night falls. The landscape along the way is absolute solitude, where shiny black granite rocks rise from nowhere like dead islands amidst the vast sand ocean. This railway built by the French is the sole bloodline feeding an entire nation, because if the train stops, the economy here will immediately suffer a heart attack. Pi Leng Pass, Vietnam. It is no coincidence that this road is named Horse Nose, where the slope is so treacherous that even the most durable animals are exhausted and collapse. Rising above the deep green forests, the landscape here is a desert of billions of sharp cat-ear rocks pointing straight to the sky like cold spikes. At the foot of the pass is a fracture canyon, nearly 3,000 feet deep, a massive geological scar created from the Earth's crust hundreds of millions of years ago. Flowing at the bottom of the abyss is a river carrying a strange emerald green color, mixed from freshwater algae and calcium salts melting from ancient limestone cliffs. The harshness peaks when wind gusts are compressed in the narrow canyon, blowing hard enough to lift the handlebars and push travelers toward the deep abyss. It is this thorny and haunting beauty that honors Pi Leng as the uncrowded king, dominating all the most majestic mountain passes in Vietnam. James W. Dalton Highway, USA. Few believe this 414-mile road to the Arctic Ocean was completed in just 5 months in 1974 to serve the flow of black gold. Not built on soil, the entire route sits precariously on permafrost, where engineers had to pile gravel 7 feet thick to prevent the road from sinking into deadly pits. Harshness peaks in winter when temperatures drop to -80 degrees Fahrenheit, making metal brittle like glass and tires shatter if stopped for too long. Time is distorted here. Summer has 24 hours of hallucinogenic sunlight, while winter sinks into eternal darkness like a horror movie scene. Under the wheels of giant trucks, billions of razor-sharp shale rocks shoot out like bullets, forcing every traveler to carry at least 2 spare tires to survive. However, the reward for such recklessness is the chance to watch purple and green auroras dancing in the night sky at one of the loneliest places on Earth. Pamban Bridge Route, India. Few suspect that since 1914, the British boldly built this first sea railway in one of the planet's most corrosive environments. Salt spray and humidity here destroy steel 10 times faster than on land, forcing humans into an endless maintenance battle against the ocean. Because the track is too narrow and lacks guardrails, passengers endure the chilling illusion of gliding directly on rough waves without any support. Danger always lurks when automatic anemometers turn red if winds exceed 36 miles per hour, forcing the train to stand still amidst the open sea. The magical highlight lies in the central span designed by German engineers, using a rolling mechanism on giant gears to open the way for ships. To survive on sinking geology, trains only dare to move at 6 miles per hour, turning every trip into a breathtaking slow-motion movie. Kuranda Scenic Railway, Australia. Few know that this train runs through Earth's living museum, a tropical rainforest 130 million years old, older than the legendary Amazon. To conquer the height of 1,076 feet on sinking volcanic soil, 1,500 men had to use bare hands and explosives to slice through the 90-degree vertical mountainside. In the rainy season, giant waterfalls crash down right next to the tracks, covering the cars in white mist, making tourists feel like they are passing through the eye of a storm. The groaning metal and creaking wood as the train crosses bridges are a chilling reminder of human fragility before the deep abyss below. In the past, this railway transformed into a giant ambulance, carrying thousands of World War II wounded soldiers to high mountains to avoid tropical diseases. This journey is not just tourism, but an exploration into the planet's memory, where wild nature reigned long before humans appeared. Husseini Suspension Bridge. Known as one of the scariest paths on the planet, this bridge looks more like a death trap than a safe transport structure. Located in a wind tunnel gorge without aerodynamic design, the bridge not only swings, but also snakes in a wave shape whenever the wind howls. The rotting floor planks are spaced so far apart that walkers are forced to look straight down at the ferocious river through gaping holes. The deep suction effect of the valley combined with the bridge's length creates a terrifying illusion, making the other side seem miles away and unreachable. Hanging at a height of about 100 feet, the water below is no longer soft, but turns into a hard concrete block if someone falls freely. A strange contrast appears when tourists crawl in fear, while locals calmly carry heavy loads across without holding the handrails. White Pass and Yukon Route, Canada. Born from the fury of the gold rush in 1898, this railway was a gamble challenging death as engineers determined to bend every law of physics. More than 35,000 workers had to fight snowstorms and use up to 450 tons of explosives to slice through the hardest coastal granite cliffs on the planet. To cling to the vertical cliffs, the track was narrowed to less than 3 feet, making the train wobble in the whistling wind like a lonely wild beast. The most ghostly highlight is the pitch-black, rusty steel cantilever bridge abandoned over the abyss, standing bare as a monument to the harshness of nature. From a gold-seeking path, it transformed into a silent war machine during World War II, transporting vital supplies to protect North America. Today, when all contact with the modern world is cut off, it stands on par with the Eiffel Tower as a great engineering masterpiece, where humans only face the wilderness. Georgetown Loop Railroad, USA. Born from the ambition of the Silver Rush in 1884, this engineering marvel is proof of humans using mathematics to conquer vertical cliffs. To overcome an elevation difference of nearly 650 feet in a short distance, engineers had to extend the track to 4 miles using crisscrossing spiral knots. The breathtaking highlight is the 98-foot high viaduct connected only by rivets and crude steel, an architectural miracle of that time. The creepiest feeling is when the train crosses the bridge. Visitors look down, seeing only the abyss without tracks, feeling like they are floating. Sitting in windowless cars, you will suffer the bone-chilling cold and hear the steam whistle echoing like thunder in the canyon. Few know that this masterpiece was completely destroyed to sell for scrap metal in 1939 before being revived from the ashes in the 80s. Kahakii Highway, USA. Named after the brutal thunder god who built his house with enemy bones, this road is truly a life-and-death gamble amidst wild nature. It cuts along the ancient volcanic flank with a cookie-like porous structure where falling rock signs become meaningless because drivers have no room to dodge. The landscape appears violent, with the sharp contrast between the red of sliding earth, the green of invading jungles, and the deep blue ocean. When rain falls, volcanic dust turns into a slippery mud trap, ready to slide even the strongest four-wheel drive vehicles sideways into the abyss. Psychological pressure weighs heavily on the passenger as their view through the window is completely swallowed by the deep void instead of the safe road surface. This is not a path for the faint of heart, but a naked neural challenge where beauty and death always go hand in hand. Nar del Diablo, Ecuador. Seen from afar, this massive volcanic rock appears with the shape of a hooked, rugged nose of a demon, coldly looking down into the abyss. To conquer the nearly vertical cliff, engineers had to use massive amounts of explosives to blast rock, creating the railway known as the most difficult in the world. The challenge lies in the train having to climb an altitude of 1,640 feet in just 8 miles, a nearly impossible slope ratio. However, the price paid was the lives of over 2,000 slaves and prisoners, so many that it is rumored there is a body under every railroad tie. Right at the edge of the unguarded track is a deep abyss, where the tiny river below is ready to swallow anything that falls. When the train drops altitude suddenly, the atmospheric pressure changes quickly, causing passengers' ears to pop, like a reminder of the extreme danger of the Devil's Nose. Karakorum Highway, Pakistan. People liken this to a road built of blood and flowers, where on average for every kilometer of asphalt laid, one worker's life was left behind forever. At the highest point, reaching 15,400 feet, oxygen levels dropped to just 55%, causing even the healthiest people to collapse from altitude sickness. This is the only place in the world where you drive alongside black glaciers, crawling down from the killer mountain that no one had conquered in winter until recently. Amidst the cold, grey rocks, trucks decorated brilliantly like mobile theatres, costing up to 2 years of income, become vibrant highlights. Tragic beauty is present through a stunning turquoise lake, which is actually a scar from a landslide disaster that buried an entire village and blocked the river. To touch life on the other side of the river, visitors must gamble their lives on primitive suspension bridges, swaying violently over water as cold as 39 degrees Fahrenheit. Moi Dougway, USA. Manifesting as a perilous cut on 300-million-year-old sandstone cliffs, this road is an extreme psychological challenge with zigzag curves perched in mid-air. Built in the 1950s, this 3-mile journey was once a secret strategic path for transporting uranium ore for the American nuclear program during the Cold War. With a terrifying grade of 11%, this is one of the steepest roads in the nation, where trailers longer than 28 feet are strictly forbidden due to sharp turns. The drama peaks when driving downhill, as the nose of the car points straight into the deep blue void, creating an illusion of flying off the cliff before steering. As dusk falls, the shadow of the giant mountain stretches out to create a vast, dark zone in the valley, completely contrasting with the brilliant golden sunlight on the summit. Overcoming the boundaries of fear, Moi Dougway is not just an old military path, but a heroic epic of human conquest over the wild nature. Atlantic Ocean Road, Norway. Instead of hiding inland, this road boldly dances on the ocean, hopping from island to island across magical winding bridges. Honored as the construction of the century, It possesses causeways so low to the water that drivers feel like they are steering a canoe through waves when the tide rises. However, that beauty harbors death when waves up to 50 feet crash ashore like sledgehammers ready to sweep vehicles into the deep sea. To fight wind speeds over 60 miles per hour, bridges must be aerodynamically curved to cancel drag, preventing cars from being blown away like autumn leaves. Amidst the harsh nature, they still designed walkways jutting out, where visitors can cast lines to catch cod directly into the swirling waters. It is this dramatic, deadly beauty that turned it into the perfect stage for breathtaking action scenes in the blockbuster spy movie 007. Kishtwar Killer Road, India. Likened to a scar of death, this trail is essentially a small groove manually carved into the vertical cliffs of the Himalayas. Below is an abyss up to 3,300 feet deep, where the rushing river is ready to crush anything that falls, making the chance of recovering bodies nearly zero. It is an extreme neural challenge when drivers must steer through waterfalls pouring onto slippery dirt roads right next to the unguarded precipice. The real nightmare strikes when two vehicles meet, forcing one to reverse hundreds of yards on a road barely wide enough for wheels to find a passing spot. Disregarding danger, local drivers still casually steer dilapidated buses with worn-out tires through here with one hand as if taking a stroll. Although a gamble of life, this is the only lifeline helping locals avoid detouring hundreds of miles over several days to connect with the world. Sichuan-Tibet Highway, China. Likened to the world's cruelest elevator, this journey forces travelers to climb a total accumulated altitude of over 65,600 feet, equivalent to 2.5 times Mount Everest. At mountain peaks, oxygen concentration drops by half, causing car engines to lose 40% of their power, while the human brain swells in hammer-like headaches. The real nightmare manifests through 99 hairpin turns stacked like intestines, dropping nearly 6,600 feet in altitude in just a short distance. Overcoming danger, the landscape opens up to immense grasslands running endlessly, where black yak herds appear like musical notes on a giant carpet. Nature is even so magical that eternal glaciers crawl down right to the road surface, allowing you to touch million-year-old blue ice blocks. However, the harshness and deprivation here have caused many couples to break up, because only when facing endurance limits is the true nature of humans exposed. Hana Highway, USA. Few know that this beautiful road was carved from steel-hard basalt cliffs by the bare hands of prisoners in 1910. It winds like a giant snake 64 miles long, forcing drivers to wrestle with 620 continuous curves, averaging a turn every 525 feet. Trees interlace to form dense botanical tunnels miles long, where sunlight only filters through in spots like daytime stars. The miracle is that you do not need to get out of the car to see waterfalls, as dozens of streams pour directly from the cliffs, soaking the windshield. On one side are fern-covered cliffs, on the other is an abyss plunging straight into the deep blue ocean without guardrails, creating the sensation of flying over the sea. However, death always lurks beneath that beauty, as flash floods from upstream can suddenly rise and sweep away tourists, even when the sun is shining beautifully. Col de la Bonnette, France. Few know that to beat neighboring rivals, the French intentionally built an extra loop to raise this pass to 9,193 feet, making it the roof of European roads. The
Cuanto
higher
más
you
se
go,
asciende,
the
más
more surreal the
surrealista se
scenery
vuelve el
becomes,
paisaje
as the
cuando el
pitch black
esquisto
shale
negro intenso
contrasts with
contrasta
white
con la
snow,
nieve blanca,
creating
creando
the
la
feeling that
sensación
you
de
are driving
conducir
on the
sobre la
surface of the
superficie
moon.
de la luna.
Amidst that silence, the only echoing sound is the whistling alarm of fat marmot squirrels hiding in rock crevices. Even the biggest enemy of supercars here is not the police, but thousands of sheep leisurely flooding the road to block the way. However, hidden behind the peaceful beauty are ruins of abandoned military camps with empty windows like dead eye sockets looking down into the valley. This place was once part of the fortified Maginot Line during World War II, with reinforced concrete bunkers still hidden, pointing artillery towards the Italian border. Transfiguration Highway, Romania. Appearing like a crazy asphalt ribbon through the heart of the Carpathian Mountains, this road is where military history and nature blend in an overwhelming way. Carved into the cliffs by a dictator's order, in 1970, this military project consumed a massive amount of explosives to subdue the most stubborn granite blocks. The journey leads through a dark tunnel nearly 3,000 feet long, connecting slopes where waterfalls pour directly onto the road's surface, creating a haunting mist. The drama is real, as Transfiguration is the only place you encounter wild brown bears standing along the asphalt edge like uninvited guests. Due to extreme weather, this lazy road only awakens for about 4 months each year, spending the rest of the time completely buried under thick snow walls. At the highest point, the path embraces a deep blue, glacial lake, offering a chillingly silent beauty amidst the infinite majesty of the Romanian mountains. 99. Bend Road to Tianmen Mountain, China. Resembling a giant white dragon, winding its way up to the nine heavens, this crazy masterpiece was carved alive into 90-degree vertical cliffs. Carrying the divine number 99, symbolizing the nine heavens, the road leads mortals straight from the lower world to the fairy realm. However, the road to paradise is full of danger, with 180-degree hairpin, turns so tight they choke you, stacked on top of each other like slices of sandwich meat. On days covered in fog, the road's surface completely disappears, making vehicles look like they are gliding in the clouds, full of eerie and magical beauty. To create these legendary 7 miles, thousands of workers had to hang suspended on the cliffs for 8 long years, betting their lives against death. The drama reached its peak when an SUV not only climbed all the asphalt, but also crazily drove straight up 999 steep steps to pass through the Heaven Gate. Rotang Pass, India. Bearing the creepy name Pile of Corpses in the local language, this pass is a historical witness of thousands of lives swallowed by snowstorms in an instant. The life of the road is exchanged for the lives of workers clearing snow in sub-zero temperatures, with the haunting slogan, "Our blood mixes with the asphalt." At an altitude of nearly 13,000 feet, oxygen levels drop to only 60%, making changing a tire as exhausting as running 3 miles on the plains. Ironically, right in that oxygen-deprived space, thousands of cars are stuck bumper to bumper for 5 hours, emitting black smoke that melts eternal glaciers. The horror is most visible when looking down into the abyss without guardrails, where the wrecks of trucks that fell years ago still lie rusting as a silent warning. Ultimately, Rotang is not just a traffic gateway, but a giant common grave where the boundary between life and death is more fragile than ever. Trollstigen, Norway. Bearing the meaning of the Ladder of Giants, legend has it that this is the territory of mysterious troll demons who will instantly turn to stone if touched by sunlight. Surrounding the road are three towering peaks named the King, the Queen, and the Bishop, standing there like giants playing a life-and-death chess game with tiny humans. The road itself is a geological battlefield carved into ancient gneiss mountain sides where tons of rocks still silently fall every year, threatening passers-by. The danger multiplies when a waterfall up to 1,050 feet high roars across, creating a perpetual rain screen that makes the road surface as slippery as grease. Looking down at the valley bottom, the river containing melted glacial flour bears a turquoise color, winding like a giant green snake, sleeping soundly at the foot of the mountain. Finally, the drama reaches its peak at the nearby vertical cliff over 3,280 feet high, where daredevils still secretly perform the craziest base jumps in Europe. Van Zil's Pass, Namibia. Under the harsh sun, the valley burns with brick red and deep purple, where twisted trees grow from rock crevices like dry skeletons begging for help. It is this creepy, primitive beauty that turns this place into a legendary holy grail, the harshest test that every off-road driver desires to conquer. However, death always lurks in the form of razor-sharp, sedimentary rocks, ready to slice through specialized tires like cutting a piece of butter with just a small mistake. Cruelty reaches its peak in summer when rock surface temperatures heat up to 158 degrees Fahrenheit, turning inflated wheels into ticking time bombs at any moment. Few suspect that this hellish road was created entirely by hand in the 1960s using only hammers, crowbars, and dynamite without heavy machinery support. Standing before that immense valley stretching endlessly, humans suddenly realize their extreme smallness like a speck of dust in the vast universe. Manali Highway, India. Perched on the boundary between heaven and hell, this strategic route is where the army fights nature to maintain a lifeline nearly 295 miles long. Here, physical laws are bent as water boils at 176 degrees Fahrenheit, leaving food undercooked, while engines easily catch fire from overheating. The human body must endure a strange torture, getting sunburned skin under solar radiation while suffering frostbite in the shade at the same time. Defying death, this remains a pilgrimage site for crazy riders on Royal Enfield bikes, conquering heights with the proud, distinctive thumping sound. Godard Pass, Switzerland. Hidden deep under the cold granite shell, this mountain is actually a giant sacred fortress, once hiding an underground city for 20,000 soldiers to stand fast. People compare it to a piece of porous cheese, where the mountain heart is carved by hundreds of miles of traffic and military tunnels intertwined in the dark. On the ground, the ancient stone-paved road winds like a grey-white ribbon thrown down the mountainside, creating artistic and dizzying zigzag curves. This is also the strangest climate wall on the continent, where you enter an 11-mile tunnel amidst a snowstorm and emerge on the other side under the glaring summer sun. Amidst that quiet space, the three-note bus horn sounds like an authoritative command, forcing every other vehicle to stop and yield absolutely. Above all, Godard is not merely a pass, but an immortal symbol of independence and self-determination of a whole nation against all foreign forces. Canning Stock Route, Australia. Originally the world's longest historic cattle route, this journey is essentially a battle for survival across the burning heart of the Australian continent. Harshness is measured by crossing exactly 960 towering sand dunes, like driving over nearly 1,000 consecutive hills amidst 3 major deserts. Deadly traps lie in dry white salt lakes, where the slushy mud underneath is ready to swallow a 3-ton car forever without recovery. Life here is also threatening, with billions of flies seeking moisture from human eyes and wild camel herds ready to attack cars to fight for water sources. To survive, the unwritten rule is that every car must mount a 10-foot flag on the front, the only signal to avoid deadly head-on collisions when cresting blind dunes. $1 Million Highway, USA. Behind the flashy name, legend has it that the foundation of this road was built with waste rock filled with gold and silver scraps from the old mineral fever. You will be overwhelmed by mountains glowing red, like bleeding, a great chemical phenomenon when tons of iron ore and sulfur oxidize in the blue sky. Deadly charm exists through beautiful turquoise streams that are actually water contaminated with toxic acid and heavy metals from old mines. Running along the edge of the 1,000-foot deep abyss, without guardrails, your wheels roll past rotting mining towers, standing lonely like dry skeletons of history. This is also where death lurks, with over 100 identified avalanche paths ready to sweep all life into the bottom in the blink of an eye during winter. The $1 Million Highway is a brutal testament to human aspiration, reminding us that the road to ultimate treasure always lies right next to death's door. Mana Pass, India. Dubbed the Stairway to Heaven in ancient epics, this pass lies at a staggering altitude of over 18,400 feet, once holding the record as the world's highest motorable road. The conquest route is just a fragile thread of gravel hanging on the edge of the abyss, sandwiched between vertical shale cliffs like giant knives piercing the sky. At the peak, the surreal, clear, eternal glacial lake is the source of the only mythical river in the world, flowing invisibly underground. The paradox lies in marine fossils on the cliffs, proving that this roof of the world was once deep under the ocean floor millions of years ago. Right in these quiet caves, ancient sages meditated to compile the Holy Scriptures and the greatest epics in human history. Not just a geographical limit, this is a sacred holy land, the final intersection between earthly reality and the eternal realm. North Coast Road, Mauritius. Winding through the most beautiful bays of the Indian Ocean, this road is a giant natural swimming pool surrounded by coral reefs with an average depth of only about 6 feet. The landscape explodes with color in summer, when thousands of flamboyant trees bloom simultaneously, turning the road into a bright red tunnel of fire running for dozens of miles. The iconic highlight lies in the small church with a bright red roof right at the water's edge, a place to commemorate shipwrecks that became the most famous wedding photography sanctuary. Far offshore, the horizon is broken by a volcanic ruin rock island rising from the sea, shaped sharply like the dorsal fin of a giant shark over 500 feet high. This piece was once broken in 1810 when the British Army chose this very beach to launch a surprise landing to ambush the French instead of attacking the main port. Today, the vibrant rhythm of life returns with buses dubbed mobile discos, decorated colorfully and always playing music at full volume as they rush on the road. Cotopaxi Volcano Road, Ecuador. Located right on the unstable Ring of Fire, this winding dirt road is a breathtaking challenge, leading to the height of 15,092 feet in the heart of the majestic Andes. You will have to cross a land of daily minor earthquakes, where the perfect conical volcano is always ready to erupt destructive mud flows. The landscape here is hauntingly beautiful, with deep red cliffs and frozen lava blocks weighing tons perched on the roadside like unexploded bombs. The drama is pushed to a climax with downhill cycling services, where you rush at 43 miles per hour through fog and slippery gravel. When the mist clears, the lake at the mountain's foot appears like a giant mirror, capturing the magnificent silhouette of the mountain known as the Throat of the Moon. Overcoming the fear of lightning strikes or lack of oxygen, this journey is a profound reminder of human smallness before the primitive power of nature. Kardungla, India. Proudly reigning at a posted altitude of up to 18,380 feet, this place is likened to the roof of the motoring world, challenging every human survival limit. A brutal geographical paradox exists here, where snow covers everything, but the air is as dry as a desert, causing tourists' skin to crack from dehydration. The landscape remains only in deadly white and grey-brown, monotonous enough to cause permanent snow blindness without protective sunglasses. Looking down from the pass, the road winds like intestines perched on the abyss, where you absolutely must not stop for more than 20 minutes to avoid the risk of fatal brain swelling. Few know that this artery is maintained year-round only for the military to transport weapons to the world's highest battlefield, where cold kills more soldiers than bullets. Amidst that fierce land, millions of colorful flags still fly in the wind, carrying prayers for the liberation of souls who perished here to faraway places. Cat and Fiddle Road, UK. Like a soft grey thread across the Green Valley carpet, this road reaches an altitude of 1,690 feet and is one of the most spectacular mountain passes in the UK. At the windy summit, the iconic local inn has now become the highest distillery in the country by utilizing pure spring water from the heart of the mountain. Travelers will be overwhelmed by continuous hairpin bends, where the view ahead suddenly disappears following exciting slopes of up to 12%. On clear days, the thin air sharpens the scenery so much that you can see distant mountain ranges 50 miles away. However, the allure of this natural racetrack also comes with haunting statistics, as over 70% of serious accidents here involve high-capacity motorcycles. Once a sanctuary for illegal races, this road is now a symphony of speed, adventure, and the wild beauty of nature. Comval Road, France. Like a magnificent scar carved into the mountain's heart, this balcony road hangs at an altitude of nearly 2,000 feet, equivalent to 2 Eiffel Towers stacked on top of each other. To create this horseshoe-shaped masterpiece, hundreds of workers had to hang on ropes for 37 long years to chisel the rock entirely by hand with hammers and dynamite. The driving experience becomes haunting as you pass through semi-open tunnels where sunlight shines through natural rock windows onto the dusty road surface. Real fear is reserved for the passenger as they feel like they are floating without support, at eye level with birds of prey gliding on thermal columns. Rising above the scenic beauty, this treacherous terrain was once a natural fortress sheltering resistance forces during the fierce years of World War II. Baybert Pass, USA. Originally just a rough path for gold ore mules in the 19th century, this road has now turned into a death test for the most modern 4x4 machines. Cut directly into fragile shale rock, the road surface seems ready to collapse under wheel weight and waits to swallow the bold into the abyss. At the notorious step section, your car will tilt up to 25 degrees toward the cliff edge, where a slight shift in gravity means flipping over forever. Fear rises when you have to crawl over the top of a 365-foot waterfall where freezing, rushing water creates deadly, slippery moss right at the turn. The tragic lesson of the crushed Jeep in 2020 remains, reminding us that a broken handbrake on a high slope is paid for with life. Only by overcoming this grave of the arrogant do you truly hold the most prestigious graduation degree of the professional off-road world. Col du Chaussee, France. Dubbed the shoelaces of the Alps, this mountain pass is a geometric masterpiece defying physics as it clings tightly to a nearly 90-degree vertical limestone cliff. In just 11 months with primitive technology, humans created a miracle by stacking 17 consecutive hairpin turns within a distance of merely 2.5 miles. This breathtaking but challenging beauty caused the prestigious Tour de France to only dare route through here for the first time in 2015. Today, Col du Chaussee is not just a path leading to an altitude of 5,030 feet, but an eternal symbol of human will triumphing over majestic nature. Tizi and Test Pass, Morocco. Carved into the mountainside by the first large-scale industrial explosive blasts in history, this pass is a living museum preserving the bold French road-building techniques of the 1930s. Suspended at an altitude of 6,867 feet along a geological fault, the cliffs here are a magnificent chaos of shale and quartz, witnessing tectonic collisions from millions of years ago. Although Tizi in the local language simply means pass, Western tourists often imply that this is truly a test of steel nerves before naked danger. This journey takes you on the most distinct climatic boundary on the planet, where the lush moisture of the Northern Ocean directly confronts the scorching heat of the pre-desert. Crossing Tizi Test is a journey through time, where you leave modern cities behind to enter an ancient, slow, and harsh world. Hana Highway, Australia. Likened to nature's white torture room, this road challenges the human mind with monotony so intense it can cause deadly hallucinations. It holds the Guinness record for boredom, with a straight stretch of 91 miles, where drivers just hold the wheel and stare into the void for hours. Running parallel is the world's longest sea cliff, marking where the Australian continent suddenly broke and fell vertically into the cold ocean millions of years ago. Luxor Al Hurghada Road, Egypt. Dubbed the Corridor of Death, the greatest fear here is the habit of drivers completely turning off their headlights at night to avoid attracting terrorists. Far from romantic golden sand dunes, this road cuts through a black rocky desert, jagged and sharp like the surface of a dead planet. Running along it are mountain ranges with monstrous shapes, standing upright like the teeth of a stone monster, waiting to swallow lonely travelers. The ghost of the past still haunts through dense military checkpoints, reminding of the time when tourists had to move in convoys of hundreds of vehicles to save their lives. Kolyma Highway, Russia. Built on the remains of hundreds of thousands of prisoners, this Siberian path is a 1,200-mile-long cemetery where every meter of road is soaked in historical tragedies. This journey challenges all survival limits as it crosses the coldest land on the planet, where temperatures can drop deeply to a record -96 degrees Fahrenheit. The entire roadbed sits precariously on permafrost, which can collapse at any time to turn the surrounding world into a bottomless quagmire. The harshness creates drunken forests with ghostly tilted trees and rotting bridges standing lonely as witnesses to human failure. Amidst the wilderness where brown bears and fierce wolves lurk, the road is not just a geographical path, but a tragic epic of human endurance. Halsema Highway, Philippines. Draped across the boiling faults of the Pacific Ring of Fire, this road appears as a silent killer hiding in a paradise shell. Named after the American engineer who gave birth to it in 1922, this vital path carries the burden of transporting 80% of the vegetables feeding the whole nation. Instead of monotonous rice fields, the mountainsides here are a giant quilt patched with millions of colorful vegetable terrace squares. Amidst towering pine trees reminiscent of cold North America, drivers are easily mesmerized and forget the abyss lurking right beside them. Loose clay geology combined with heavy rain turns cliffs into trapdoors, ready to permanently bury entire road sections at any time. The deep abysses here have become cold graves for countless ill-fated bus trips, turning Halsema into the most tragic song of survival. Kahakii Highway, USA. Known as the most terrifying challenge in the Pacific, this road is only about 10 feet wide with absolutely no guardrails, where a small mistake will send you straight into the abyss. It clings tightly to millions of years old ancient lava cliffs, where wind and sea salt have eroded the rock into threatening, sharp, serrated shapes. The harshness peaks at sections near the sea level, when rough waves can crash dozens of feet high and spray white foam directly onto the windshield. After tropical rains, the scene becomes surreal, with dozens of waterfalls pouring from the mountaintop onto the road surface, creating beautiful, natural water curtains. Amidst that precipice, wild goat herds still calmly stand balanced on vertical cliffs, quietly watching the trembling cars pass by. All this ferocity is worthy of the name of King Kahakii, the legendary Thunder King with a black tattooed body who once ruled this land. Kabale-Kisoro Road, Uganda. Resembling a giant pitch-black snake slithering through the valley, this asphalt road winds prominently against the deep green background of the East African Great Forest. Considered the least straight route on the dark continent, thousands of hairpin turns force drivers to steer constantly every 5 seconds to avoid plunging into the abyss. It is this majestic yet dangerous beauty that made Prime Minister Winston Churchill exclaim in amazement and liken this place to the Switzerland of Africa. Amidst that magnificent scene, chaos still exists through motorbikes carrying refrigerators or even coffins, weaving through curves at dizzying speeds. Masaya Volcano. Dubbed the Mouth of Hell, this is one of the rare shield volcanoes on Earth that tears open its chest to reveal a permanently boiling lava lake. The terrible heat, reaching up to 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit, turns this place into a natural reactor, where the red glow dyes the night sky and clouds above the color of blood. The air is thick with the rotten egg smell of hundreds of thousands of tons of toxic gas spewed daily, forcing visitors to face death for a maximum of 20 minutes to avoid permanent lung damage. Amidst that suffocating dead zone exists a miraculous paradox of life, as green parakeets calmly nest right inside the cliff, reeking of deadly sulfur. Spiritual fear was so great that in the 16th century, the Spanish had to plant a large cross right at the edge of the abyss to seal the devil they believed was screaming below. Standing before this deep pit, the boundary between nature and the supernatural, between faith and destruction, becomes more fragile than ever. Denali Star, Alaska. Few know that the clear polar air creates a visual illusion, making the giant mountain taller than Everest from base to summit seem just a few miles from the train window. The train glides past brilliant pink-purple flower carpets, signaling snow is coming, taking tourists from dense conifer forests to the barren tundra where only moss survives. The most heart-stopping feeling is when the train crosses a steel bridge over a canyon 295 feet deep, where passengers looking down see only nothingness, like floating. However, this journey is a game of luck, as only 30% of visitors have the chance to see the proud peak completely without clouds covering it. Nika Crystal Cave. Hidden nearly 1,000 feet underground is a magnificent but brutal crystal cathedral, where exquisite beauty is exchanged for human life. Accidentally discovered by miners looking for silver, this place opens up a chaotic labyrinth with giant crystals crisscrossing like thousands of sharp swords. Although bearing the cold, transparent appearance of ice, the temperature inside remains stable, at 136 degrees Fahrenheit, turning the cave into a real furnace, cooking every creature. Chang La Pass, India. Like driving on the roof of the world at an altitude of 17,585 feet, where clouds float right at eye level, completely separated from the earth below. Even in the middle of the sunny summer, the road is still sandwiched between vertical eternal snow walls up to 10 feet high, creating a mesmerizing white ice canyon. The harshness is shown through the deadly temperature range when the sun just sets. The cold of -13 degrees Fahrenheit strikes instantly, freezing engine oil. The road surface is also a trap of melting ice streams at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, flowing fast, ready to freeze into hard rock at night or wash away vehicles during the day. This is the mandatory challenge gate to pass if you want to touch the paradise, which is the famous saltwater lake lying across the border in the distance. Draensburg Travers. Not a paved path. This is a survival journey across peaks formed from an ancient basalt lava layer over 4,600 feet thick. The harshness begins with a distance of nearly 150 miles, where you are completely isolated and must carry your own life for half a month without supply stations. The fear of heights manifests through iron chain ladders dangling on vertical cliffs, where the howling wind competes with your racing heartbeat. But the real enemy is the sky, as the dense lightning strikes turn hikers on the open peaks into reluctant, mobile lightning rods. Night falls, bringing the ghostly calls of aggressive baboons waiting to tear apart tents and steal the remaining meager food supplies. With over 55 lives lost, mainly due to hypothermia and lightning, this place is not just a route, but a suspended death sentence for the careless. Nyiragongo Volcano. Not just a majestic stratovolcano, this is truly a brutal killing machine with the most unpredictable temper on the planet. The horror lies in the water-like lava that can rush down the slopes at 62 miles per hour, taking away the survival chance of every creature, including cheetahs or off-road vehicles. The real nightmare comes not from the crater, but from terrible pressure tearing apart the mountain base, causing millions of tons of molten rock to crash down suddenly without any warning signs. Because the lava is too liquid and creates few warning vibrations, this monster always leaves scientists completely passive in the race to escape death. On cloudy nights, the light from the boiling lava lake reflects onto the sky, creating a ghostly blood-red halo covering a vast land in gloom. Amidst that fragile boundary, tourists still risk sleeping in wooden huts hanging on the cliff edge, just a few hundred yards from the hell on earth. Kawah Ijen. Hidden behind the graceful beauty of the turquoise lake is a death trap, as this is the planet's largest acid lake capable of dissolving all life. When night falls, high-pressure sulfur gas burns at 1,112 degrees Fahrenheit, creating ghostly blue fire streams flowing like water. The scene becomes suffocating when the wind shifts and blows toxic smoke into your face, making your lungs burn like inhaling fire, and your throat feels strangled. Here, hot gas streams are led through ceramic pipes to condense into red liquid, then solidify into bright yellow rocks full of the smell of death. Amidst that toxic smoke are manual miners using their bare shoulders to make a living without any supporting machinery. Although weighing less than 132 pounds, they must carry loads up to 198 pounds, creating a body load ratio harsher than Special Forces soldiers. Darvaza Crater. Amidst the vast desert, few know that this fiery gate of hell is not a natural wonder, but an eternal artificial wound caused by the collapse of geological structure. The terrible heat, ranging from 750 to 1,830 degrees Fahrenheit, warps the surrounding air, strong enough to cook flesh if anyone dares to get too close. For over half a century, this fire has burned away billions of dollars worth of natural gas, enough to light up a small nation for many years. When night falls, the bright orange light turns it into a lighthouse in the void, but accompanied by the suffocating smell of burning gas and sulfur. This is a rare place where tourists recklessly pitch tents right next to the mouth of death, ignoring the risk of landslides or suffocation that can strike at any time. The journey here is a race against time, as no one knows when this fire will go out or collapse completely into the ground. Danakil. Like an open, bleeding wound of the planet, this geological depression is the brutal result of the separation war between three giant tectonic plates. It is dubbed the Oven of the Earth, holding the record for the highest average temperature, with scorching summer days exceeding 122 degrees Fahrenheit. The deadly, seductive beauty appears through lemon yellow or neon orange pools, which are actually boiling tanks of concentrated sulfuric acid. The space is thick with the smell of rotten eggs and burning metal, where sharp crystallized salt towers rise like wild graves in the desert. Life here is so fragile that sweat evaporates before it can flow, and just neglecting to drink water for 30 minutes means death will knock on the door. But this cruel beauty will not exist forever, as the ocean is waiting to flood in, to submerge everything and wipe out the current traces. Great Blue Hole. Viewed from space, this place looks exactly like the pupil of a giant deep blue eye staring up at the sky, contrasting sharply with the surrounding turquoise waters. This crater, over 1,000 feet wide, is surrounded by a sharp coral belt, like a natural fence protecting the monster sleeping inside. Hidden deep beneath that quiet beauty is a dense wall of toxic hydrogen sulfide gas at a depth of 300 feet, the deadly boundary separating life and death. At the bottom of the abyss is a haunting graveyard of thousands of conch shells that accidentally fell in, leaving desperate scratch marks on the sand before suffocating in the oxygen-free environment. The eternal darkness here is also the favorite territory of aggressive bull sharks who often hide in the deep pit to stalk and spread fear. Even more terrifying is the phenomenon of nitrogen narcosis, causing divers to fall into extreme euphoric hallucinations, leading to wrong decisions paid for with their lives. Sundarbans. Amidst the fragile boundary of reality and illusion, this is the only place on the planet that changes shape twice a day, when high tides rise from 10 to 23 feet, turning the entire jungle into a seabed. When the water recedes, the ground reveals itself as a giant bed of nails with billions of sharp pneumatic roots, ready to pierce the flesh of anyone who accidentally falls. The mud flats, glistening in the sun, are actually death traps where you can sink waist deep and get stuck forever to become bait for the rising tide. The harshness seeps into every vein of the tigers here, as being forced to drink salty, brackish water makes them always in a state of extreme agitation and aggression. When the sun sets, the bright red light reflects on the murky water, creating a scene that is both magnificent and desolate, reminding us of the cruelty of nature. Therefore, humans are absolutely forbidden to step on the ground and are forced to observe this threatening wild world from the safety of boats. Shark Alley. Do not be deceived by the peaceful deep blue water, as hidden beneath that murky camouflage is a brutal dining hall with the highest density of great white sharks in the world. The terrain creates a narrow corridor of death sandwiched between two islands, forcing prey to swim through this natural trap to get to the open sea, turning them into moving targets. This is the only place where one-ton sharks perform spectacular breaches, launching from great depths 10 feet into the air at a speed of 25 miles per hour. You can pay to taste the near-death experience in an iron cage when a 16-foot monster slams into you with destructive power. Pack Creek. Hidden deep in the planet's largest temperate rainforest is a primitive world where thick green moss carpets everything like a prehistoric setting. Giant spruce and hemlock trees rise to the sky, weaving together to form a dark canopy, keeping nature's eternal mystery. This is the absolute territory of 1,600 brown bears, where their density is so high that on average every 1 square mile, you will encounter a king of the jungle. The magic lies in the old female bears, acting as peacekeepers, teaching their cubs how to live peacefully with the presence of humans. That is the only way to ensure humans do not break the sacred silence of this wild fortress. Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. More terrifying than the ruins is the absolute silence, where only the wind whistles through broken windows like the weeping of hollow buildings. This dead land is haunted by the plutonium isotope with a half-life of 24,000 years, meaning it will outlast our current civilization. Beneath the ground still lies the molten elephant's foot, a monster that can kill anyone standing next to it in just 300 seconds. The destructive power was so terrible that an entire green pine forest died instantly and turned a rusty red color right after the disaster. To contain the radioactive monster, humanity had to join hands to build a giant, movable steel dome weighing 3 times as much as the Eiffel Tower, covering the old ruins. This place is not just the past, but a cold warning that human glamorous civilization can collapse and vanish in just one night. Poveglia Island. Amidst the poetic Venice Lagoon, this beautiful island is actually a floating coffin where a bloody past is hidden under a fake peace. The deathly air is so strong that even birds refuse to fly across the sky here, and strong, swirling currents turn it into a natural prison with no escape. During the darkest period of the pandemic, this was the final transit station for 160,000 lives thrown away and burned in fire pits that burned all day and night. The rusty psychiatry department sign still hangs on the mossy wall, a silent witness to medical crimes once disguised under the cover of a peaceful nursing home. The island is the most brutal memorial to human cruelty, where the living were willing to throw away their own kind in exchange for their own safety. Most haunting is that although the bell was removed long ago, locals still swear they hear echoes from the red brick tower on windy nights like wailing from the realm of the dead.